We are discussing some methodological aspects of NSSO survey. And in the last class, we have completed some common structure, common sample design followed by NSSO in carrying out surveys in different rounds in general, and particularly in the round on employment and unemployment survey. Okay. And we mentioned NSSO basically followed multi-stage stratified random sample. This is the common sampling method used by NSSO. And in the last class, we have discussed first stage stratification and sub-stratification. Okay, how stratification is made at the first stage, and also the sub-stratification made at the first stage. So today we continue the earlier discussions. So let me share. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the last class, we have completed up to this sub-stratification, the rural level, as well as sub-stratification at the urban level. Now, next point we have to keep in mind, allocation of sample. Allocation of sample means how many sample units to be taken from each state and union territories. As you know, NSSO covered all over the country. So all states and union territories are to be covered in the sample frame. So the next point, and it is very much important, is to find out the total number of sample units that to be covered in each state and union territories. So to determine the number of sample units come from a particular state, NSSO basically used the proportion, population proportion as per census. So till 68th round, NSSO considered population census 2001. After that, NSSO considered population census 2011. So on the basis of the state share of total population of the country, the number of sample units from a particular state is determined. Okay. Now, you know, in India, there are different types of states. Some states are major states or large states, and there are some smaller states as well, along with the union territories. So in the case of a smaller state or union territories particularly, how many minimum number of first stage units to be taken? So minimum number of first stage units. First stage units means village in the rural and urban survey blocks in the urban areas. So in this case, the minimum number of first stage units is determined at 16. So minimum 16 number of units at the first stage are to be taken from a particular state. So this is the minimum number. So it will be applicable for the minor states, or for example, northeastern states or union territories, etc. So out of 16 first stage units, 8 to be taken from the rural stratum and 8 from the urban stratum. Okay.
I
Yes.
think Vishalda is asking for permission to join.
Okay. I think it is auto permitted. Vishal, are you able to join? Yes, he's joined. In the 68th round employment unemployment survey for 2011-12, total number of first stage units were determined at 12,784. So these total number of first stage units are to be allocated across the states and union territories. Okay, so at this stage you have to keep in mind, when NSS conduct a survey, parallelly state units also carried out the similar kind of survey along with the NSSO. So there are two type of sample units in the sample set covered in the NSSO data. One is called the central sample. Another one is called the state sample. State sample are covered by the State Statistical Bureau. In each state in our country, there are statistical bureaus, and their task is to collect data, and along with the central organization, for example, NSSO. So when NSSO conducted a survey, along with NSSO people, people from the State Statistical Bureau also collect data. So in any round of NSSO survey, there are two types of sample. One is called the central sample, another one is called the state sample. So the figures I have shown in this presentation, 12,784 first stage units, this is the central sample, and 14,772 first stage units from the state sample. These figures were determined for 68th round NSSO survey on employment and unemployment in 2011-12. So the figures I have shown here, they are related to 68th round survey on employment and unemployment for the year 2011-12. So at that time, total number of first stage units in the central sample was 12,784 and state sample 14,772. So you have to divide these first stage units across the states. So what would be the principle for allocation? Principle to be followed is the population proportion. So the state share of total population is determined the total number of first stage units to be collected from a particular state. And if you go through the supporting literature in each round of survey, even in periodic labor force survey, you can find out the number of first stage units taken from each and every step. So all are available in the supporting documents, in the PDF documents that are available along with the data. You can find out how many villages are taken from a particular state, how many urban frame survey blocks are taken from a particular state, all are available, and even how many households are taken in the sample. Okay, so first of all, you have to find out how many first stage units, that is how many villages and how many urban frame survey blocks are to be taken in the sample design from each and every state. Okay. Now, allocation to strata and substrata. Strata means, suppose in West Bengal, on the basis of the population share, suppose the number of first stage units determined at 500. So 500 first stage units are to be taken from West Bengal. Now the question is how to allocate these 500 units at the first stage by stratum. That is, how many from the rural stratum and how many from the urban stratum. And then in each stratum, you have to take care of the substratum as well. So the number of first stage units are to be fixed at the substratum level ultimately. So allocation of substratum level are adjusted to multiples of 4 with a minimum sample size of 4. So in each substratum, minimum number of first stage units will be 4. So this is the minimum number. So what would be the so it may be more than 4. So in that case, it will be a multiple of 4. So 4, 16, etc. 8. So allocation for each substratum, 4. Then in the rural sector, I have already mentioned the figures shown in this presentation are relevant for 68th round 2011-12, and the population size is determined on the basis of the census 2001. So in the selection of first stage units in rural stratum as well as urban stratum, NSS applied the probability proportional to size with replacement. Probability proportional to size with replacement. Size being the population of the villages as per census 2001 at that time. Now it is 2011. In the urban area, also the probability proportional to size with replacement. Here the size being the number of households of the urban frame survey blocks. Now normally equal number of samples are allocated among the 4 sub-rounds. Then selection of hamlet groups and sub-blocks. So what is hamlet group? At the first stage you have taken village. How many villages? That will be determined by the population proportion of a particular state. So suppose you have selected some villages from a particular state. Now villages are not homogeneous, at least in terms of population size. So some villages are large, some villages are small. So particularly for large villages in the rural stratum and large urban frame survey blocks in the urban stratum, we have to subdivide it. And each division is called hamlet group in the rural stratum and sub-blocks in the urban stratum. So when a particular village, so you have to keep in mind village is the first stage sample unit. So you have to select village first. Now the village already selected at the first stage, if it is large in terms of population size, that is if a village contains 1200 or more population, in that case we have to divide the village, and each division is called the hamlet group. Similarly, in the urban area, urban frame survey blocks are to be divided if the population size more than 1200, and each division is called the sub blocks. Okay. Now suppose a particular village which is very large. So on the basis of the population principle, suppose the particular village which is larger one is divided into 4 or 5 hamlet groups. So out of these 4 or 5 hamlet groups, you have ultimately to take 2 hamlet groups, not more than 2. So if a village is a small one, that is population up to 1200, there is no question of division. So there is no question of hamlet group. The village will be divided into 2 or more parts if population size exceeds 1200. In that case, each part is called the hamlet group for village. Now suppose a particular village is divided into 5 hamlet groups. So in that case, again you have to select any 2 of the 5. But if the village is divided into 2 hamlet groups, so there is no question of selection. You have to take the 2 groups. But if the village or the urban frame survey blocks is divided into subgroups more than 2, in that case, again, there is a question of selection. So if hypothetically a large village is divided into 5 hamlet groups, you have to take any 2 of the 5. So by using the random selection, you can take any 2. So 2 hamlet groups in the village stratum, in a village, in rural stratum, and 2 sub blocks from urban frame survey blocks in urban stratum are to be selected. Okay, এই জায়গাটা বুঝতে পারলে হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ সাব ব্লকস এর ব্যাপারটা?
Yes, sir. স্যার একটা জিনিস যেটা কনসিডার এনি 2 হ্যামলেট গ্রুপস, এটা কোন মেথডটা আমরা ফলো করছি, মানে র্যান্ডম সিলেকশন?
র্যান্ডম
মানে SRSWR এরকম কি কোনো সিম্পল র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং করছি?
সিম্পল র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং, নরমালি উইথ রিপ্লেসমেন্ট।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা,
ওকে। Sorry, I am mentioned wrongly at this stage. Not random sampling in a simple manner. Basically, there are some norms to form a hamlet group or sub-blocks. Not simply divide equally the total villages into equal number of populations. Okay, so there are some norms. Suppose up to 1200, no hamlet group. If population exceeds 1200, then 2 hamlet groups. Then 3 hamlet groups. So when you divide a village into 3 hamlet groups or 4 hamlet groups, there are some norms, and they are given in the supporting literature with the data. So it varies from round to round. So it may be in a particular hamlet group considers more populations as compared to the other. So how to select the hamlet group? First of all, select the hamlet group containing the maximum share of population. Then you have to take one more. When you take one more, so one more to be taken from the remaining on the basis of random sampling. So you cannot select 2 hamlet groups randomly. You have to select first one with a population of highest share of population, and the rest one to be selected from the remaining on the basis of simple random sampling. So this is the tricks used here. So first hamlet group or sub block to be chosen which contain maximum share of population. Then the second one to be chosen at random from the remaining. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So after selecting villages and after forming hamlet groups, the next task at the second stage, you have to select household, because household is the ultimate sample unit. So how to select household? In selecting household, again you have to form some stratification. That is called the second stage stratum. So already you have stratified the sample at the first stage in the form of rural stratum and urban stratum. This is the first stage stratum. At the second stage means after selecting the villages and after selecting the urban frame survey blocks and after forming the hamlet groups and sub-blocks if needed. You have to select households. Now, in selecting households, again, you have to consider some stratification rule. This is called the second stage stratum. So, each village, if it contains population up to 1200, so there is no hamlet group. So, in that village, you have to make a group of households on the basis of their characters, homogeneous characters. And each group is called a stratum. Similarly, the urban frame survey blocks is also divided into several groups of households, and each group will be called a stratum. If a village or the sample frame survey block is to be divided into hamlet group or sub-block, in that case, stratification will be done from the hamlet group and from the sub-blocks, not from the village as a whole. Okay. Now, how to make stratification before selecting households? There are different rules for stratification in the rural stratum as well as in the urban stratum. Rules are different. What are the rules? Look at carefully this table. Triple S means second stage stratum. Each village without hamlet group or each urban frame survey block without sub-block, the households of that village or that urban frame survey blocks are divided into 3 homogeneous groups. Each group is called second stage stratum 1, second stage stratum 2, second stage stratum 3. But if a village is to be divided into subgroups, so in that case, you have to make stratification of the households by considering the hamlet group, not by considering the village. Okay. So, what are the criteria for stratification? In second stage stratum 1, triple S1, look at carefully, triple S1 contains the households which are relatively affluent. So, in a particular village, you consider the rich households in a single group, and this group form second stage stratum 1. Okay. Now, out of the remaining, you have to consider households whose principal source of earning is non-agricultural activity. So the households whose principal earning come from non-agricultural household, non-agricultural activities, they form the second stratum, second stage stratum 2. And rest form the second stage stratum 3. So try to understand first the stratification of households in rural stratum at the first stage, How to make stratification? In a particular village, we are considering first the village is small one containing population up to 1200. So you have to take all households together. You have to count all households in that villages. Then you have to take all affluent households in a particular group. This group is called second stage stratum 1. Of the remaining, you have to take those households whose principal earning come from non-agricultural activities. This is second stage stratum 2. This is another homogeneous group. And the rest is called the second stage stratum 3. So in this way, households of a particular village are divided into 3 homogeneous groups. Second stage stratum 1 with all households which are affluent. Second stage stratum 2 with all households whose principal earning source non-agricultural activity. Second stage stratum 3 for other households. Now in the urban area, also households are divided into 3 homogeneous groups. Second stage stratum 1, second stage stratum 2, second stage stratum 3. What are the criterion? In stratification in the urban area, you have to take monthly per capita consumption expenditure. So you have to take those households whose monthly per capita consumption expenditure is the top 10% of urban population. Okay. So you have to find out first the monthly per capita consumption expenditure at top 10%. Suppose that level is determined at B, capital B. So the households whose consumption expenditure is more than B, capital B, will be in second stage stratum 1. Again, find out the per capita consumption expenditure at the bottom 30% of the urban population. Suppose this level is determined at capital A. Now take all households whose monthly per capita consumption expenditure is less than capital A. This group form second stage stratum 3, triple S3. So triple S1 with those households having monthly per capita consumption expenditure more than B, capital B. What is capital B? Capital B is the monthly per capita consumption expenditure at top 10% of the cumulative frequency. If you consider as a cumulative frequency distribution, so you can find out the value for monthly per capita consumption expenditure at top 10% of the urban population. So the households with monthly per capita consumption expenditure more than B form triple S1. Households with monthly per capita consumption expenditure less than A form triple S3. And the households with monthly per capita consumption expenditure lying between A and B, these groups form triple S2. So in the urban stratum, triple S1 captures the affluent households in terms of monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Triple S3 covers poorer households, and triple S2 covers middle class household like this. So stratification criteria in rural area and urban area are different. In the rural area, you have to consider level of affluency as well as source of earning. But in the urban area, you have to consider only the level of monthly per capita consumption expenditure. Am I clear?
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sir, when we're talking about relative affluence in villages, is it in terms of the land ownership or wealth?
Yes. Relative affluency, basically, relative affluency is determined by the level of monthly per capita consumption expenditure, although it is not mentioned here. Okay. So affluent households are those who are non-poor, who are richer. So what would be the cutoff point? There are some norms in finding out the cutoff point, and the households with consumption expenditure, because NSSO collect different items of consumption expenditure, not income. So on the basis of those and different assets, on basis of those, they determine the affluent households, and they form triple S1. And triple S2, the households whose main earning source is non-agricultural activities. So if you look at carefully, the principles followed in stratification in employment unemployment survey, particularly in rural area. All of you know rural area is basically agriculture dominating. But if you follow this stratification in selection households in your sample, agriculture may be underrepresented. Why? Because there is no criteria specifically used in forming stratification at the second stage on the basis of agricultural activities. On the other hand, second stage stratum 2 is determined on the basis of non-agricultural activities. Okay. Now, how many households to be taken from each stratum? You have to keep in mind, you have selected at the first stage village or urban frame survey block. Then you have to select household. So how many households are to be selected from a particular village which is already selected at the first stage? The number of households to be taken from a particular village or from a particular urban frame survey block is 8. So from the selected villages, you have to take 8 households from each village and 8 households from each urban frame survey block. Okay?
Sir,
So-
one more thing.
Yes.
In case of rural areas, the absence of this criteria, is it because most people in the agricultural sector are self-employed? Because
Yes,
they
yes.
have their own field.
Yes.
That could be a reason.
Yes. Because here there is no such criteria to take care of those activities in forming second stage stratum. So you can, when you look into any data, for example, this employment unemployment survey, you have to criticize the design. Okay, although it is well accepted in our country and it is designed by the statisticians in our country, but even if you consider, if you think the composition of the households come in the sample, you can easily understand the agricultural people may be underrepresented, particularly in the rural area, because
Right.
there is no such criteria, or self-employed, or like this. Okay, there no such criteria are used to form the stratum at the second stage. Just you have to take the level of affluency to take second stage stratum 1. Then for stratum 2, you have to take those households whose income from non-agricultural activities, and then others. So others means a lot of things. So all are involved in the others. Now out of these 8 households, so you have to select 8 households from a village. Suppose in a village there are 150 households. So out of 150 households, you have to take only 8. Now these 8 households are to be divided, or are to be allocated in different stratum in this way. Out of 8 households, 2 households are to be taken from second stage stratum 1. 4 households are to be taken from second stage stratum 2. And remaining 2 households are to be taken from second stage stratum 3. So from triple S1, you have to take 2 households. From triple S2, you have to take 4 households. From triple S3, you have to take 2 households. Similarly, for the urban area. In urban area also, you have to take out of 8 households for a particular urban frame survey blocks, 2 to be selected from triple S1, 4 households to be selected from triple S2, and 2 households to be selected from triple S3. And so if you look at the composition, so more weightage is given on triple S2, because more households come from triple S2. And if you look at the composition of the rural stratum, in triple S2 in the rural area, the households whose principal activities are non-agricultural. So of course, agricultural people will be underrepresented in the sample. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Out of 8 households, you have to take 4 households from the second stage stratum 2, in which all households come from non-agricultural activities. And you have to take 2 households from the affluent class and 2 from the others. In the urban area, relatively more rational as compared to the rural. In the urban area, 2 people come from the affluent groups, relatively richer, 4 from the middle class, and 2 from the relatively poorer. Okay, so these are for a particular village or for a particular urban frame survey block, when the village or the urban frame survey block is not to be subdivided into hamlet group or sub blocks. Now, suppose the case of a large village. So that village is divided into different hamlet groups, and you have to take only 2 hamlet groups from that village. So you have information on households living in those hamlet groups or sub blocks, not from the whole village or the whole survey urban frame survey blocks. So in that case, as you have taken 2 hamlet group, so you have to select 1 household from triple S1, 2 households from triple S2, 1 household from triple S3 from each hamlet group. So as there are 2 hamlet groups in a particular village, so total number of households in the sample will be 8 again. Okay.
স্যার
ক্লিয়ার?
স্যার এই জায়গাটা আরেকবার একটু যদি এক্সপ্লেন করেন।
কোনটা বলো, কোন জায়গাটা?
যে যখন আমাদের এফএসইউর মধ্যে যদি আমাদের হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ
হ্যাঁ, হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ যদি থাকে বা সাব ব্লক যদি করতে হয়, তাহলে তুমি দুখানা হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ নিচ্ছ একটা ভিলেজ থেকে। তাহলে একটা ভিলেজ মানে সেখানে তোমার রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ হচ্ছে দিস টু হ্যামলেট গ্রুপস। রেস্ট অফ দ্য হাউস হোল্ডস তাদেরকে তুমি কনসিডার করছো না। তুমি যে দুটো হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ সিলেক্ট করলে, কিভাবে সিলেক্ট করবে তার ক্রাইটেরিয়া বলা হলো আগে। এবার যে হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ দুটো সিলেক্টেড হলো, সেই দুটো থেকেই তোমাকে হাউস হোল্ড সিলেক্ট করতে হবে, বাকি এরিয়াগুলো থেকে সিলেক্ট করলে চলবে না। এবার তাহলে তোমার দুখানা হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ হচ্ছে একটা ভিলেজের রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ। এবার একটা ভিলেজ থেকে তুমি ম্যাক্সিমাম 8খানা হাউস হোল্ড তুমি নিতে পারবে, তার বেশি নিতে পারবে না। তাহলে এই যে 8খানা হাউস হোল্ড, এটাকে দুটো হ্যামলেট গ্রুপে ভাগ করে দাও, চারটে ফ্রম হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ 1, চারটে ফ্রম হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ 2। তাহলে হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ 1-এ যে 4টে হাউস হোল্ড আসবে, এবার কোন স্ট্যাটাম থেকে কটা আসবে? SSS1 থেকে আসবে 1 হাউস হোল্ড, SSS2 থেকে আসবে 2 হাউস হোল্ডস, SSS3 থেকে আসবে 1 হাউস হোল্ড। এই হচ্ছে টোটাল 4। সিমিলারলি ইন আরবান এরিয়া। এবার একটা হ্যামলেট গ্রুপের ক্ষেত্রে হচ্ছে এইটা, তাহলে দুটোর ক্ষেত্রে 2 দিয়ে মাল্টিপ্লাই করে দাও, তাহলে 8 হয়ে গেল।
ওকে স্যার।
ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ওকে।
তাহলে আলটিমেটলি নাম্বার অফ হাউস হোল্ডস ইন ইয়োর স্যাম্পল আর সিলেক্টেড অন দ্য বেসিস অফ, তাহলে কিভাবে তুমি সিলেক্ট করবে? এই যে দুখানা হাউস হোল্ড তুমি সিলেক্ট করছো একটা পার্টিকুলার ভিলেজ থেকে ফ্রম দিস স্ট্যাটাম। এবার এই স্ট্যাটামে মনে করা যাক 50 হাউস হোল্ডস রয়েছে। সো আউট অফ 50 হাউস হোল্ডস ইউ হ্যাভ টু টেক 2 হাউস হোল্ডস বাই ফলোইং সিম্পল র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং উইথ রিপ্লেসমেন্ট। সিমিলারলি সেকেন্ড স্টেজ স্ট্যাটাম 2-তে যতগুলো হাউস হোল্ড থাকবে তার মধ্যে থেকে তোমাকে 4টে হাউস হোল্ড সিলেক্ট করতে হবে বাই ফলোইং সিম্পল র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং উইথ রিপ্লেসমেন্ট। তাহলে র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং এই ব্যাপারটা আসছে কোথায়? অ্যাট দিস স্টেজ in considering households. Similarly, at the first stage in selecting number of villages, in that case also randomness appeared in selecting a particular village. So the total sample frame followed in NSSO survey in each and every round is multi-stage stratified random sampling. So sampling is done at multi-stage, particularly 2-stage in most of the cases. Stratification to be done in 2 stages, first stage stratification, second stage stratification. And ultimately you have to take the sample units. At the first stage you have to take villages. At the second stage you have to take households from the selected villages at the first stage. First stage যে ভিলেজগুলো সিলেক্টেড হলো সেই ভিলেজগুলো থেকে তোমাকে হাউসহোল্ড ড্র করতে হবে। এবার হাউসহোল্ড ড্রয়িং এর ক্ষেত্রে কিভাবে? একটা ভিলেজে যতগুলো হাউসহোল্ড বাস করে তার মধ্যে এনি 8 অ্যাট র্যান্ডম নেওয়া যাবে না, সেখানে তোমাকে স্ট্র্যাটিফিকেশন করতে হবে 3টে হোমোজিনিয়াস গ্রুপে, SSS1, SSS2, SSS3। SSS1 এই গ্রুপের মধ্যে যতগুলো হাউসহোল্ড থাকবে তার মধ্যে এনি 2 তুমি সিলেক্ট করবে অন দ্য বেসিস অফ সিম্পল র্যান্ডম স্যাম্পলিং উইথ রিপ্লেসমেন্ট। সিমিলারলি SSS2-তে যতগুলো হাউসহোল্ড থাকবে আউট অফ দেম ইউ হ্যাভ টু সিলেক্ট any 4 by following the same rule. SSS3-তে যতগুলো হাউসহোল্ড থাকবে you have to select any 2 by following the same rule in the case of a small village or small urban frame survey block. For large village or large UFS you have to make hamlet group, you have to make sub block. So in that case you have to consider or you have to stratify by considering the hamlet group, not by taking the village as a whole. ওই হ্যামলেট গ্রুপে যে হাউসহোল্ড গুলো রয়েছে তাদের কম্পোজিশন দেখতে হবে, সেই কম্পোজিশন অনুসারে তুমি 3টে হোমোজিনিয়াস গ্রুপে সাজাবে টু ফর্ম ইচ স্ট্যাটাম। এবার সেখান থেকে ফার্স্ট স্ট্যাটাম থেকে একটা হাউসহোল্ড নেবে, সেকেন্ড স্ট্যাটাম থেকে 2টো হাউসহোল্ড নেবে, থার্ড স্ট্যাটাম থেকে একটা হাউসহোল্ড নেবে। তাহলে একটা হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ থেকে 4টে হাউস হোল্ড এলো, সিমিলারলি আরেকটা হ্যামলেট গ্রুপ থেকেও 4টে হাউস হোল্ড আসবে বাই ফলোইং দ্য সেম রুল। Now, if you look at the stratification rule, you can find out more representation of the relatively affluent households in the sample data. Why? If you go through the detailed literature in each and every round, you can find out the level of affluency. Level of affluency will be determined on the basis of the ownership of motor car, jeep, tractor, etc. Consumer durables like this, whether there is any large business or remunerative professions for non-agricultural activities or high salaried income, spacious pakka house in good condition, 7 hectares or more of cultivable land, and good number of cattle. So on the basis of the ownership of these assets, relative affluency are normally determined. ওকে, কে যেন জিজ্ঞেস করছিলে রিলেটিভ অ্যাফ্লুয়েন্সি কিভাবে ডিটারমিন্ড হবে এর আগে?
স্যার আমি জিজ্ঞেস করেছি।
হ্যাঁ, সেই ক্ষেত্রে ক্রাইটেরিয়া গুলো হচ্ছে এইগুলো। তাহলে যে হাউসহোল্ড গুলো এই অ্যাসেট গুলো ওন করে তাদেরকে আমরা বলবো রিলেটিভলি অ্যাফ্লুয়েন্ট হাউসহোল্ডস। আরবান এরিয়াতে কিন্তু সেটা না, আরবান এরিয়াতে অন দ্য বেসিস অফ এমপিসি, মান্থলি পার ক্যাপিটা কনজাম্পশন এক্সপেন্ডিচার। নাও কাম টু পিরিয়ডিক লেবার ফোর্স সার্ভে। তাহলে এইটা হচ্ছে মোটামুটি ভাবে তোমার এমপ্লয়মেন্ট আনএমপ্লয়মেন্ট সার্ভে অর এনি কাইন্ড অফ স্যাম্পল সার্ভে ফলোড বাই এনএসএসও। নাও কাম টু লেবার ফোর্স সার্ভে। পিরিয়ডিক লেবার ফোর্স সার্ভে ইজ a recent addition to employment unemployment survey in our country, and labor force survey is basically is not new, although new in our country. This kind of survey is followed in many other countries. In our country, it is followed from 2017-18 and also by the NSSO. NSSO is doing the same job in place of employment unemployment survey. At the beginning, I have mentioned the last round of employment unemployment survey was 68th round for 2011-12. And after that, collection of information relating to employment and unemployment parameters are not continuing on the basis of the schedule, on the basis of the sample design followed in the earlier rounds. Okay, and one of the main reason to discard the employment unemployment survey as appeared roughly 5 years interval is that there is a lag of information. Suppose a survey is conducted in 2011-12 after 5 years. So you have access with data on employment unemployment after a long gap of 5 years, and there may be a significant change, several changes in the labor market characteristics. So how labor market characteristics changes, particularly from the point of view of employment and unemployment, you don't know because of the lack of the information, because of the lack of the data. For that reason, it was decided that labor force survey, not employment unemployment survey, labor force survey will be conducted in our country on annual basis, on periodically. And although there are some common points you can find in the periodic labor force survey, there are some significant changes in methodology adopted in conducting this survey. So we will discuss those issues, because you can use now this data source to analyze labor market conditions in our country, particularly from employment and unemployment point of view. Okay. So you have to keep in mind first, the periodic labor force survey, PLFS in short, is independent of the usual survey on employment and unemployment. So there is no dependency on the labor force survey on the earlier rounds of employment and unemployment. So it is an independent survey which is started in 2017-18. Okay, but some basic concepts are similar as used in the earlier rounds on employment and unemployment. And the information obtained from this survey is used mainly in policy purposes. Government has to take some policy decisions, and you know, unemployment is a very sensitive issue in any country. So if there is change in unemployment, government has to take action. What kind of action government has to take? That will be determined on the basis of the nature of change of the unemployment rate. So to apply appropriate policy prescription, you need information. In our earlier system, there was a very, very little scope to have proper information on unemployment, employment on annual basis. Because unemployment employment survey conducted 5 years interval in the earlier system. Okay. So labor force survey basically provides annual estimates of key labor market indicators based on usual status and current weekly status approach. When you want to use NSSO data, particularly employment and unemployment, you have to understand the concepts used by the NSSO people. For example, I have mentioned here, US means usual status. CWS, you can find out in this presentation, current weekly status. So you have to know properly, what do you mean by usual status? What is current weekly status? There is another kind of status used earlier, what is called current daily status. So employment and unemployment are looked at in NSSO data in 3 alternative approaches. One is called usual status employment or usual status unemployment, employment in current weekly status, employment in daily weekly status. So if you go through the report of any round on employment and unemployment, you can find out the definitions of these approaches. Usual status is conventionally considered the longer period, particularly 1 year period. So in a particular year, what is your position? What is your status? Whether you are working or not, whether maximum number of days you are in working or not. On the basis of that, you will be identified as employed or unemployed. So usual status basically considers 1 year period. Okay. So when survey is conducted, from that day, the investigators considered 1 year before. So during this 1 year, they asked about your status, activity status, whether you are working or not. So on the basis of that, you will be treated employed or unemployed on usual status. Now, usual status is also divided into two parts. One is called usual principal status. Another is called usual subsidiary status. So what is principal status? What is subsidiary status? You can find out the difference if you look at the term very much closely. Principal status means, suppose you are doing different kind of activities. So among different kind of activities, one activity will be the principal for you, main activities, and others are the subsidiary activities. So on the basis of that, principal activities and subsidiary activities are identified. So the activities from which main income come from is basically the principal activities. Okay, am I right? Suppose you are working in a primary school. Suppose you are a primary school teacher. So this is your principal activity. And side by side, suppose you have a grocery shop at your home. So you also take care of different activities of grocery shops at the evening, at the morning. So this is your subsidiary activity. Am I clear? What is subsidiary? What is principal? So principal is the main activity you are working. Subsidiary is the side activities you are working.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, I just want to clarify one thing, sir. When I was just going through the report of NSSO that you asked to read about the concepts and definitions, I saw that the principal status and subsidiary status classification is done on the basis of the amount of time one devotes.
Yes,
to
yes,
the-
yes. You are
So
right.
shall we consider the earning criteria or the time devoted criteria?
Actually, they are interrelated. They are interrelated. Okay. You are devoting more time in that activities which is principal. And of course, if you consider activities are homogeneous type, so you can earn more income from those activities. So in that sense, you can relate. Okay.
But sir,
Suppose you
that
are
has
a
to be
suppose you are a teacher. Okay. So you are basically engaged in a school or college or university, whatever may be. So this is your principal work, principal job. And suppose you provide private tuition at home. So this is your subsidiary activity. Just like this. So usual status is basically for the longer period, mainly 1 year cycle, and weekly status, current weekly status. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. One is unmuted. Please mute. Current weekly status, the name suggests what is your status during the week just before the date of survey. So during the week, if you are employed on maximum time, you will be treated as employed. So in current weekly status, employment and unemployment is defined by considering a 7 days reference period or 1 week reference period. In usual status, employment and unemployment is determined on the basis of 1 year reference period normally. In daily status, in current daily status, employment and unemployment is determined on the basis of number of hours you are working in a particular day during the reference week. So in this way, NSSO normally define employment and unemployment. So if you don't know these concepts behind employment and unemployment, so you will be misguided. So what will be the incidence of employment? What will be the incidence of unemployment? And if you want to understand clearly the nature of unemployment from different angles, you should know these concepts that are used in NSSO data. Okay?
Sir, why don't we
Yes.
calculate current monthly status for NSSO?
Current?
Why don't they calculate current monthly status for NSSO?
Current monthly status, why we don't calculate? Basically, the basic principle here is we are looking at your status, one from the short term basis, another from the long term basis. So short term here is defined in a reference week, not on a month. And long run basis is defined with reference to a year. So when we are considering 1 year as a reference, we are basically looking at the status on long-term basis. And month may be the intermediate stage. Okay, so for policy prescription or for theoretical purpose, when we use the concept of employment or unemployment, whatever may be, you have to consider this concept in short-term basis as well as in long-term basis. And in the short-term basis, there are short-term as well as very short-term. Very short-term is obtained on the current daily status. And if you look at critically and very closely by using these concepts, so you will be employed in usual status, but you may be unemployed in weekly status. You may be unemployed in current daily status. Okay. You may be employed in usual status, but you may be unemployed in current weekly status. You may be unemployed in current daily status. So if you look at carefully these concepts used in NSSO data, you can use these concepts by your own to find out another dimension of employment or unemployment. For example, you are familiar with underemployment. You are familiar with disguised unemployment. So there may be a scope in estimating disguised unemployment, in estimating underemployment by using the concept of current daily status, current weekly status. Just think about the difference in the concepts after going through, and if possible, you can utilize this concept in finding out the extent of disguised unemployment, because disguised unemployment is very much important, particularly in the rural area, in agriculture. All of you are well known with this concept. So how to estimate disguised unemployment? Also, disguised unemployment you can find out in the service sector, particularly in the public sector jobs. A lot of disguised unemployment you can find out. And as a result, the ultimate condition of the public sector units we have to face today. This is one of the major cause. Take for example BSNL. The condition of BSNL today is very, very bad. Who is responsible for that? I think many of you have experience on BSNL. BSNL means BSNL is an organization, and the people involved in this organization. If you, perhaps you have some experience, particularly I have. I had a BSNL connection, and today you can find out many people disconnected BSNL, mainly because of the service provided by the people. They have not responded timely. Even they have ignored your complaint. That's why you will be affected badly. So why you will bear this kind of cost? So disguised unemployment in a government office, you can find out. You have experience even in our university. If you go to College Street campus, in our office, main office, nobody normally come at 10 o'clock or 10:30. If you reach at the office at 10:30 or 11 o'clock or 11:30, you can find a little, and most of them will come at 12 o'clock. So office time starts at 12 o'clock informally. So this is not the office hour, basically. According to the government norms, office hour from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So but it is very much difficult to estimate even by using the NSSO data, because NSSO data has a lot of limitations. This data cannot capture this kind of issues. Okay, so the concept of, but if you analyze the data structure available in employment unemployment survey or even in periodic labor force survey, by considering different indicators, perhaps you can find out, because there are different dimensions are available. Some bodies are familiar with the NSSO data. In this data, industry classifications are available. In this data, occupation classifications are available. Activity status are available. So by combining different indicators, you can even find out the situation of the service sector, particularly in the public sector. And if possible, you can find out the extent of disguised unemployment or underemployment. Yes.
Sir, the thing that you just now said about this public sector,
Yes.
Just previously we were discussing about the classification based on the amount of time devoted to a job that is surveyed.
Yes.
So,
So
if they are
the concepts used by NSSO, now you can use those concepts by your own. You can modify.
Yeah, basically what I'm asking is if it is known that how much time is getting one is devoting to a job, so this should be also disclosed then, means this should be also surveyed.
Yes.
Means actually the office hours is supposed to be something around 10:30 to 4:30 or 5, but the actual time that is being devoted is like 12:30 to 4 or something. So that whether that is revealed or not, like whether
it is
that
very much difficult to reveal, because
they won't say.
suppose you are collecting data, you are the investigator, you are going to a particular office, you are asking a people, what is your working hour? Nobody will tell you from 12 to 4 o'clock.
The actual thing.
Everybody will tell from
the
10 to
official
5.
time.
Okay, so that's why it is very much difficult to find out. But even these limitations, you can try in periodic labor force survey or employment unemployment survey, if possible, to find out some clue, although not directly, but indirectly. There may be some scopes for indirect estimation of this kind of underemployment by using these concepts: current daily status, current weekly status, usual activity status.
Sir, I had one question,
Yes.
small question, that is regarding the activity status that you were mentioning. Sir, whenever we go through any paper or article which uses NSS data, particularly for the informal sector, we find that the data related to PNP enterprises, proprietorship and partnership enterprises, and then in the end, it is mentioned that it is UPSS. So PS plus SS, it is written there. So I'm just wondering about this PSS, SS, how they are combined together and how this UPSS is formed or how it is defined.
No, information are separately available in the data. Subsidiary status available, usual status available. So a single person may engage in both or not, whatever may be.
Okay.
So in that way, you can combine, you can add principal status plus subsidiary status, because the informations are available separately in separate different levels.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir.
Now, one important thing in the periodic labor force survey, in periodic labor force survey, there is no estimates using current daily status. So periodic labor force survey is limited to the weekly status only, not so current daily status is not used in the periodic labor force survey. Okay, so these are the basic points on periodic labor force survey. Now, let me concentrate on the sample design. I have already mentioned there are some similarities with the earlier employment unemployment surveys, and as well as a lot of differences in periodic labor force survey as compared to the employment unemployment survey. One major difference appears in the principle of stratification. I have already mentioned the principle of stratification in employment and unemployment survey at the first stage stratification as well as at the second stage stratification. Now, there are significant differences, particularly in the urban area in PLFS. In PLFS, urban stratum is formed on the basis of population size within each NSS region. Okay? And stratum 1 considers all towns and populations less than 50,000. Stratum 2 considers population 50,000 or more, but less than 3 lakhs. Stratum 3, population 3 lakhs or more, but less than 15 lakhs. So these kind of stratum are used in the urban areas. So urban itself is a stratum, first stage stratum. And hopefully you have a clear idea about the first stage stratum and substratum. So stratum 1, stratum 2, stratum 3, they are basically the substratum in urban. So there are differences in principles in forming the substratum in the urban area in PLFS as compared to employment unemployment survey. What are the difference? So these are the criteria used in PLFS. Now the criteria used in employment unemployment survey simple like this. Stratum 1, 10 lakhs or more people. So stratum 1 considers all towns with populations 10 lakhs or more. And stratum 2, the rest. So in employment and unemployment survey in the urban area, there are two stratums, 1 and 2, one with towns and cities with population 10 lakhs or more, and 2 the rest. On the other hand, in PLFS, there are 3 stratums are used. 1, all towns considering population less than 50,000. Stratum 2, population between 50,000 and 3 lakhs. Stratum 3, population 3 lakhs or more, but less than 15 lakhs. So this is one major difference. Also, there are differences in substratification. You can remember we have discussed in the last class, in employment and unemployment survey, both rural and urban stratum are subdivided by R by 4. So the maximum number of substrata in the rural stratum is equal to R by 4. Also in urban stratum, the maximum number of substrata is equal to RU by 4. Okay. Now in PLFS, there is no substratum in urban areas. But in rural areas, the maximum number of substrata is R by 8, not R by 4, where R being the sample size. I have already mentioned in the last class. So the basic difference in PLFS and employment unemployment survey is the principle for stratification. So I am talking till now the stratification at the first stage. So at the first stage stratification, these are the problems, these are the differences. In the second stage stratification also, there is a difference in PLFS as compared to the employment unemployment survey. What are the differences? Just look at second stage stratum. The principle followed in the PLFS, periodic labor force survey. Second stage stratum is based on education level of the member of the households. Just look at carefully. In the periodic labor force survey, second stage stratum is made on the basis of level of education. And what was the principle for second stage stratum in the employment unemployment survey? I have already mentioned. In the rural and urban, in both cases, relative affluency of the households. So on the basis of relative affluency, stratifications were made at the second stage in employment and unemployment survey. But in the periodic labor force survey, second stage stratification is made on the basis of level of education. So what are the criteria? 75% of the sample units in the selected block was chosen among the households with at least one member has education secondary level and above. So in the sample units, 75% of the households will be chosen in which at least one member has education level secondary and above. So this is the criteria used in periodic labor force survey. On the other hand, in employment unemployment survey, second stage stratum is based on economic condition of the household. And if you look at 75% of the sample units in the selected block were chosen from the middle or higher income group. You can remember out of 8 households, 4 come from the middle income group and 2 come from the relatively higher affluent groups. So out of 8, 6 come from either middle or higher affluent groups. So 75% of the sample units in the employment unemployment survey come from middle or higher income group. On the other hand, in the periodic labor force survey, if we, when we go through the second stage stratum, we can find out 75% of the sample units. So if total number of households to be selected from a particular village or urban frame survey block is 8, so out of 8, 6 households are chosen in such a manner that at least one member of the households has education level secondary or above. এই জায়গাটা বুঝতে পারলে? This is very much important.
So, sir, it is true for both rural and urban.
Sorry?
Is it true for both rural and urban? This method, this criteria.
Yes. It is both rural and urban. And I think the criterion used in periodic labor force survey for stratification is more logical than the criteria used in employment unemployment survey in earlier rounds, because your focus is on employment and unemployment, and you know employment and unemployment are determined mainly by your level of education. So education should be the important criteria in selecting the household. But in the earlier employment and unemployment rounds, the primary criteria for choosing households are economic affluency, not the level of education. And as a result, if you compare unemployment rate obtained from the earlier employment and unemployment survey with the unemployment rate obtained from periodic labor force survey, you will get a significant different result. And when periodic labor force survey appeared first in our country in May 2019, 2017-18 data come first in 2019. So when the data come in public domain first, the estimated unemployment rate in 2017-18 was significantly higher as compared to the unemployment rate obtained in 2011-12 on the basis of 68th round data. So it has a serious political implications. And political leaders particularly use these figures obtained from periodic labor force survey. So if in a country during a particular period unemployment rate increased significantly, it may be the major indicator of failure of the government. Okay? But the reality may not be such type. The huge difference in unemployment rate may be because of the difference in sample design used in employment-unemployment survey and periodic labor force survey. As in the periodic labor force survey, the major criteria is education, and you have selected 75% of the sample households in which at least one member has education level secondary and above. And you can easily understand the unemployment rate will be more obviously in periodic labor force survey, because in the sample households, you have taken those households in which at least one member has education secondary and above. And if you analyze unemployment rate by level of education, you can find unemployment rate is maximum at the secondary high secondary level. So because of the differences in the principles used in stratification, the rate of unemployment in periodic labor force survey will be higher as compared to the rate of unemployment obtained in the employment-unemployment survey in the earlier periods. In other words, unemployment rate in the earlier periods were underestimated. Okay, so it would not be wise just to compare the figures. Suppose unemployment rate in 2011-12 was 1.5% and unemployment rate in 2017-18 on the basis of PLFS 7.5%. So it is a huge difference in terms of unemployment rate. So 6% increase means it is a large amount of increase in unemployed persons. But it may not be the real increase, because in the earlier survey rounds, your unemployment rate was underestimated because you have not considered the households on the basis of the education. You have considered the households in your sample on the basis of economic affluency.
Yes, sir.
Am I clear at this point?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Also, another difference you can find out in PLFS as compared to the earlier employment and unemployment survey is the criteria for weights. You may be familiar with the term multiplier used in NSSO data. And from the multiplier you can calculate weight. So what is the justification for multiplier? Justification is that you can calculate a particular indicator. For example, you are calculating employment rate on the basis of the data. In the data, you have a sample. You don't have information on the population. But you have to make inference on population on the basis of sample. So how to do that? For example, suppose in a village, there are 150 households. Out of 150 households, you have taken only 8 households. So the figures you can get on the basis of the information from 8 households only from a single village. So in this way, you can find out in a particular state, for example, West Bengal. If you go through the data, you can find out that employment of a particular type, number of employed persons, maybe 2000, something like this. Hypothetically, I am saying a figure. But actually, if you take the state as a whole, the number may be significantly higher than this figure. So how to get it? To get it, we can use the multiplier. So how to get the multiplier? It is the reverse form to take a sample from the population. You are taking a sample means you are taking a few from the whole. So you are reducing the number in your sample. Now the estimate you have got from the sample, then you have to inflate, you have to increase to reach at the population. So how to inflate? To inflate, you can use multiplier. The name suggests you have to multiply your estimate to get the population representative. Population in statistical sense, not conventional sense. You know population sample. Population means the whole. Sample is a part. So you are getting a result from the part. So if you want to get the result for the whole, you have to multiply your estimate. How to multiply? For that purpose, we can use multiplier. And by using multiplier, you can calculate weight. And you can use weight to get the population figure. Now, how to calculate weight depends on how to calculate multiplier. So there are some statistical norms used by the NSSO, and you can find out in method of estimations. You can find out a literature method of estimations. You can get how multiplier is calculated. So the method of calculation of multiplier in periodic labor force survey is also different from the method of calculation of multiplier used in earlier employment unemployment survey. Okay, so these differences we have to keep in mind, because in many cases, for your academic interest, you need to compare the result obtained from the periodic labor force survey with the results in your previous period from the employment unemployment survey. So when you want to compare, you have to keep in mind these differences. So if you don't know the differences, the basic differences involved in collecting the data, you may be misled. Okay. And which is more important in periodic labor force survey is the introduction of rotational panel. This is very much important, and this is the unique feature of periodic labor force survey. Rotational panel. Okay. So what is rotational panel? In periodic labor force survey, the survey schedule is designed by considering a period of 2-year cycle. 2-year cycle. And you know each year can be divided into 4 quarters. So for 2 years, you have 8 quarters. So when you design a sample, when you design a questionnaire, when you design a schedule, you are taking in mind This schedule will be valid for 2 years. For that reason, periodic labor force survey is designed for 2-year cycle. So it started in 2017-18. So 2 years means 17-18 and 18-19. So by considering 17-18 and 18-19, you have a particular cycle, 2-year cycle. So if you go through the data in terms of a quarter, you can find quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, quarter 5, quarter 6, quarter 7, quarter 8. So 8 quarter considers 2 consecutive years. So you have to take care of 8 quarters together to get the full cycle. After that, next cycle will start. Currently, you can get the data for 2019-20. So in 2019-20, another cycle starts for more 2 years. So if you go through the 19-20 data, you can start again from quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And for the next year, you will get information for quarter 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the periodic labor force survey, it is periodic. Periodic means you can collect the data periodically by considering a period of quarter. Okay. And it is a rotational panel. Panel, you know the standard definition of panel. A panel data considers the same unit for different time points. So here household is the unit. So a particular household is surveyed, or a particular household is appeared in your data for 4 consecutive quarters. So suppose a particular household is taken in quarter 1. So this information for this household you can get for 4 consecutive quarters, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So if you take quarter as a time dimension, so on quarterly basis, you can get repeated information from the same households for 4 consecutive quarters. For that reason, the panel design used in the periodic labor force survey is called 4 in then out. 4 in then out. In হচ্ছে 4, 4 বার একটা হাউসহোল্ড ইন করবে স্যাম্পলে, তারপর তাকে বার করে দেওয়া হবে। 4 in then out. This rotational design is used in periodic labor force survey. What does it mean? The part highlighted here, 4 in then out. It means the household units in the urban areas. Why I am mentioning urban areas? Because this rotational panel is used only in the urban area, not in the rural area. So you have to consider stratification by following the same rule as used in the urban, as used in the earlier employment unemployment survey. So at the first stage, there are 2 stratum, rural stratum and urban stratum. In the urban stratum, the households are repeated. But in the rural stratum, the households are not repeated. Okay. Therefore, when the question of repetition appears, we have to think only in urban areas. So the meaning of 4 in then out, 4 in then out means a particular household to be included 4 times, 4 consecutive times. Then we have to discard that household and we have to take another new household. So household units in urban areas are interviewed for 4 consecutive quarters. And then those households are to be dropped from the sample permanently. Okay. The household units in urban areas are interviewed for 4 consecutive quarters on the same issue, not on the different issue. and then this set of households will be dropped from the sample permanently. For this reason, in periodic labor force survey, each household selected in the sample appears 4 times in 4 consecutive quarters. In employment unemployment survey, you cannot find out repetition of a particular household. But in periodic labor force survey, for urban area, you have a repetition. So each household selected in the sample appears 4 times in 4 consecutive quarters in the urban area. I have already mentioned survey schedule is designed for 2-year cycle, and the cycle is divided into 8 quarters. So you have to keep in mind the allocation of households in each quarter, the allocation of first stage units, etc. are to be considered on the basis of 8-quarter cycle. So total annual allocation of first stage sample units, FSU, first stage sample units are the same, village in the rural area and urban frame survey blocks in the urban area. So all the first stage sample units are divided into 4 equal parts. Okay. Out of these 4 equal parts, suppose the first set is denoted by S11. The meaning of S11, the set 1 come in the first time. Set 1 come in the first time. So the first suffix indicates time, second suffix indicates set. S11, first set come in the first time. So the first set of sample households taken from 1/4 of the annual allocation of urban FSU is considered for visit 1. Visit 1 মানে first time তুমি আসছো. Considered for visit 1 schedule in the first quarter of the cycle. Just look at this. তাহলে তুমি কি করছো? Annual allocation of total number of first stage units, total number of villages তো লাগবে না, total number of urban frame survey block, কারণ আমরা এখানে আরবান এরিয়াতে কনসেন্ট্রেট করছি। এই রিপিটেশনটা আরবান এরিয়াতে হবে, রুরালে হবে না। রুরালের ক্ষেত্রে ব্যাপারটা সিমিলার, এমপ্লয়মেন্ট আনএমপ্লয়মেন্ট সার্ভেতে যেভাবে করা হতো একই, কিন্তু আরবান এরিয়াতে যেটা করা হয়, টোটাল নাম্বার অফ ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস আরবান এরিয়াতে যেটা এলো আরবান ফ্রেম সার্ভে ব্লক, সাপোজ 75,000 আরবান ফ্রেম সার্ভে ব্লককে তুমি সার্ভে করবে। এবার এই 75,000কে 4টে ইকুয়াল পার্টে ভাগ করো ফর 4 কোয়ার্টার্স। এবারে যে প্রথম পার্ট সেটাকে আমরা বলছি S1. When it appears first time, it is called S11. তাহলে S11 appears first time in the sample. ওকে, তাহলে ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে তুমি যখন সার্ভেটা স্টার্ট করছো 2017-18-এ, ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে কি হবে? শুধু 1/4 অফ দ্য টোটাল এফএসইউ যেটাকে তুমি কনসিডার করেছো, সেই 1/4 অফ দ্য টোটাল এফএসইউ ওইটাকেই তুমি সার্ভে করবে, আর তো কোনো পুরনো কিছু নেই, ওখান থেকেই তোমার স্টার্টিং পয়েন্ট। তাহলে ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে তোমার নাম্বার অফ ইউনিটস, ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিট, সেটা কিন্তু মাথায় রাখতে হবে। S11টা হচ্ছে ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস, দ্যাট মিনস আরবান ফ্রেম সার্ভে ব্লকস। তাহলে ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে অ্যাট দ্য বিগিনিং তুমি ওই 1/4 অফ দ্য ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটকে সার্ভে করছো। এবারে সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে চলে এসো। সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে কি করবে? ইন দ্য সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে ওই যে 4টে ভাগে ভাগ করা হয়েছিল টোটাল এফএসইউ, তার মধ্যে ফার্স্ট পার্টটা তো তুমি ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে সার্ভে করে নিয়েছো, এবার সেকেন্ড পার্টটাকে নাও, সেকেন্ড প্যানেল অফ দ্য হাউস হোল্ড। সেকেন্ড প্যানেল মিনস S2 appears in the first time, S12. So 1 in the first time, 2 in the second. So second panel household S12 from another 1/4 urban FSU is considered for the first visit. তাহলে সেকেন্ড 1/4 of the sample households ওদেরকে তুমি প্রথমবার ভিজিট করছো, তার সাথে সাথে কি করছো, প্রথম 1/4 of the household যাদেরকে তুমি ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে ভিজিট করেছো তাদেরকেও তুমি রিপিট করছো সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে। তাহলে সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে তোমার সার্ভেটা কিরকম হচ্ছে, সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে তুমি প্রথমে ফ্রেশ হাউসহোল্ড নিলে যাদের তুমি ভিজিট ওয়ান শিডিউল অনুসারে সার্ভে করলে, ভিজিট 1 মানে ফার্স্ট ভিজিট প্রথম, আর কি করলে যাদের তুমি ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে অলরেডি সার্ভে করেছো ভিজিট 1-এ তাদেরকেও নিলে দিয়ে রিভিজিট শিডিউল অনুসারে সার্ভে করলে। তাহলে সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে তোমাকে কতগুলো হাউসহোল্ড সার্ভে করতে হচ্ছে, S12 অন দ্য বেসিস অফ ভিজিট 1 শিডিউল প্লাস S11 অন দ্য বেসিস অফ রিভিজিট শিডিউল। তাহলে আমি সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারের শেষে গিয়ে আমার ডেটা স্ট্রাকচারটা কি দাঁড়ালো, at the end of the second quarter we have one set of information for the second panel and two set of information from the first panel. S11 ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে এসেছে ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে, আবার S11 সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারেও এসেছে রিভিজিটে। তার মানে সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে গিয়ে সেম সেট অফ হাউসহোল্ডকে একই জিনিস জিজ্ঞেস করা হবে কতগুলো সিমিলার ইস্যুতে। তাহলে সিমিলার ইনফরমেশন তুমি কোয়ার্টার 1-এ পেয়েছো, আবার কোয়ার্টার 2-তে পাচ্ছ ফর দ্য সেম সেট অফ হাউসহোল্ডস। তাহলে ওখান থেকে তুমি একটা প্যানেল কনস্ট্রাক্ট করতে পারবে। আমি ক্লিয়ার?
স্যার
বলো
স্যার, এখানে কি বলা যাচ্ছে যে আনব্যালেন্সড প্যানেল হচ্ছে এক একটা কোয়ার্টারের ক্ষেত্রে? এটা তো বলা যাবে না।
আনব্যালেন্সের প্রশ্ন এখনো আসছি না, কারণ এখানে আমি প্রথমেই বলছি যে তোমাকে প্রথমে কি করে নিতে হচ্ছে, তোমার এক বছরে কতগুলো ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিট সার্ভে করবে সেটা তুমি ঠিক করে নিলে বাই অ্যাপ্লাইং সাম নর্মস। এবার সেটাকে ইকুয়ালি ডিভাইড করছো, তাহলে নাম্বার অফ ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস 4টে কোয়ার্টারেই কিন্তু সমান, নাম্বার অফ ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস 4টে কোয়ার্টারেই সমান। এবার নাম্বার অফ ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস যদি 4টে কোয়ার্টারে সমান হয়, এক একটা ফার্স্ট স্টেজ ইউনিটস থেকে তুমি কটা করে হাউসহোল্ড নেবে, 8খানা করে হাউসহোল্ড। তাহলে নাম্বার অফ হাউসহোল্ডস ইন 4 কোয়ার্টার্স উইল অলসো বি ইকুয়াল। তাহলে সবার কাছ থেকে যদি তুমি ইনফরমেশন কালেক্ট করতে পারো, therefore there will be no unbalanced panel. বাট ইন রিয়ালিটি এটা হতেই পারে যে কোনো হাউসহোল্ডের কাছ থেকে কোনো পার্টিকুলার হাউসহোল্ডের ইনফরমেশন তুমি পেলে না, ইন দ্যাট কেস ইট মে বি আনব্যালেন্সড।
স্যার অনেক সময় অনেক ক্যাজুয়ালিটির জন্য অনেক সময়
হতে পারে, সেই ক্ষেত্রে আনব্যালেন্স হয়ে যেতে পারে।
মানে ফ্লাডে হয়তো কোনো ভিলেজ মানে কোনো এরিয়া তার
হতে পারে, না ফ্লাডে হতেই পারে। তবে এটা মাথায় রাখতে হবে যে এই রিপিট ভিজিটটা হচ্ছে, রিভিজিটটা হচ্ছে অনলি ইন দ্য আরবান এরিয়া, নট অন দ্য রুরাল। রুরাল এরিয়াতে রিভিজিটের কোনো স্কোপ নেই। তাহলে ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে ব্যাপারটা বুঝতে পারলে, ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে আমি কাদের সার্ভে করছি, আমি 4টে ইকুয়াল পার্টে ভেঙে নিয়েছিলাম। আমি এফএসইউ এর টার্মসে বলছি, কিন্তু হাউসহোল্ডের টার্মসে বলছি না। মানে আরবান ফ্রেমস ইউএফএস, আরবান ফ্রেম সার্ভে ব্লকস। ধরো 1000খানা আমার আরবান ফ্রেম সার্ভে ব্লক সার্ভে করতে হবে গোটা বছরে। এবার 1000কে আমি 4টে ভাগে ভাগ করে নিলাম, তাহলে কত হলো, 250 করে হলো। তাহলে ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে আমি 250 ইউএফএস সার্ভে করব, ওখানেই শেষ হয়ে গেল ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টার। সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে যখন আমি আসছি তখন ফ্রেশ 250 ইউএফএস কে নিলাম ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে, তার সাথে সাথে এর আগে যে 250 ইউএফএস নিয়েছিলাম ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারকে তাদেরকেও নিলাম ইন দ্য রিভিজিট শিডিউল। তাহলে সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে গিয়ে আমাকে সার্ভে করতে হচ্ছে 250 ইন দ্য ফার্স্ট ভিজিট and 250 in the revisit. তাহলে টোটাল আমার 500 হাউস হোল্ড সার্ভে করতে হচ্ছে। 500 এর মধ্যে প্রথম 250টা হচ্ছে ফ্রেশ, আর পরের 250টা হচ্ছে রিভিজিট। পরিষ্কার হলো?
Yes, sir.
নাও কাম ইন দ্য থার্ড কোয়ার্টার। থার্ড কোয়ার্টারে গিয়ে কি হবে? থার্ড কোয়ার্টারে গিয়ে ওই যে আমি প্রথমেই 4টে ভাগ করে নিয়েছিলাম, তার মধ্যে 1/4 দুবার এসে গেছে, ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে, সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে। তাহলে আর একটা 1/4কে আমি নিলাম ফ্রেশ ইন দ্য ফার্স্ট ভিজিট। প্রথমবার তাদের আমি সার্ভে করছি, অ্যানাদার 1/4। তার সাথে সাথে আমি কি করব, আগে যে 1/4 ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টার, সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে, ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে এসেছিল, তাদেরও আমি রিভিজিট করব। তাহলে থার্ড কোয়ার্টারে এসে আমাকে কতগুলো সার্ভে করতে হচ্ছে? 250 নিউ হাউস হোল্ড অ্যান্ড 250 যেটা ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে স্টার্ট হয়েছিল, 250 যেটা সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে স্টার্ট হয়েছিল। তাহলে থার্ড কোয়ার্টারের শেষে গিয়ে আমি কি পাবো? ইনফরমেশন স্ট্রাকচারটা কেমন হবে? S11 এই সেটটা আসবে 3 বার। ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে এসেছে ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে, সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টারে এসেছে রিভিজিটে, আবার থার্ড কোয়ার্টারে এসেছে রিভিজিটে। তাহলে S11 এই সেটটা আসবে 3 বার, S12 এই সেটটা আসবে 2 বার, S13 এই সেটটা আসবে 1 বার। ক্লিয়ার? বোঝাতে পারলাম?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, এখানে কি সেম শিডিউল অফ কোয়েশ্চেন জিজ্ঞেস করা
হ্যাঁ,
হচ্ছে?
সেম শিডিউল না। ফার্স্ট ভিজিট, হ্যাঁ ফার্স্ট ভিজিট শিডিউলটা সেম, তেমনি রিভিজিট যেটা, রিভিজিটে সমস্ত ইউনিট ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে নেওয়া হয় না, কিছু কিছু বাদ দেওয়া হয়। যেমন কতগুলো ধরো লং টার্ম ইস্যু থাকে তো, যেটা কোয়ার্টারলি চেঞ্জ হয় না, সেইগুলো জিজ্ঞেস করা হয় না। তোমরা যখন ডেটাটা দেখবে ডিটেলে দেখতে পাবে যে ফার্স্ট ভিজিট ইনফরমেশন এবং রিভিজিট ইনফরমেশন দেয়া থাকে, বা ফার্স্ট ভিজিট কোশ্চেনেয়ার, রিভিজিট কোশ্চেনেয়ার যে দেয়া আছে, দুটোকে যদি কম্পেয়ার করো তাহলে দেখবে এক্স্যাক্টলি সেম নয়, কিন্তু অনেক আইটেম আছে যেগুলো একদম এক্স্যাক্টলি সেম, মানে ফার্স্ট ভিজিটেও আছে, রিভিজিটেও আছে। তাহলে যেগুলো এক্স্যাক্টলি সেম সেগুলো তুমি রিপিট ইনফরমেশন পাচ্ছ, সেগুলোই প্যানেল হিসেবে তুমি ইউজ করতে পারবে।
Okay, sir.
একইভাবে ফোর্থ কোয়ার্টারে গিয়ে, ইন দ্য ফোর্থ কোয়ার্টার, a new panel of households S14. What is S14? Fourth part of the 1/4, fourth part of the total FSU come first time. So new panel of households S14 from the rest 1/4 of the urban FSU is surveyed by using visit 1 schedule, and households of S11, S12, S13 are surveyed with the revisit schedule. তাহলে বছরের শেষে দাঁড়িয়ে at the end of the fourth quarter আমার কম্পোজিশনটা কি দাঁড়াচ্ছে দেখো। এই যে S11 এটা 4 বার এসে গেছে। ফার্স্ট কোয়ার্টারে প্রথম এসেছিল, সেকেন্ড কোয়ার্টার, থার্ড কোয়ার্টার, ফোর্থ কোয়ার্টার, এই 3টে কোয়ার্টারে রিভিজিটে এসেছে টোটাল 4 বার। S12 এই সেটটা এসেছে 3 বার, সেকেন্ড, থার্ড, ফোর্থ। S13 এই সেটটা এসেছে 2 বার, থার্ড কোয়ার্টার, ফোর্থ কোয়ার্টার। অ্যান্ড S14 এই সেটটা এসেছে 1 বার। তাহলে বছরের শেষে গিয়ে অ্যাট দ্য এন্ড অফ দ্য ফোর্থ কোয়ার্টার এই S11 4 বার কিন্তু এসে গেছে। এবার যখন আমি ফিফথ কোয়ার্টারে যাব, তখন আমি কি করব, এই S11টাকে আমি ড্রপ করে দেবো পার্মানেন্টলি ফ্রম দ্য স্যাম্পল। বুঝতে পারলে? তাহলে এই যে আমরা যে কথাটা দিয়ে শুরু করেছিলাম, 4 in then out, S11 4 বার এসে গেছে, এবার তাকে আউট করে দাও, দিয়ে নতুনদের সুযোগ দাও, ব্যাপারটা এরকম। ওকে, therefore the households in S11 are surveyed 4 times in 4 consecutive quarters in the first year of the 2-year cycles. Now come in the fifth quarter. In the fifth quarter means first quarter of the second year, a new sample of households S15, এটা নতুন এলো, S15 from 1/4 of the annual allocation of urban FSU for the second year. সেকেন্ড ইয়ারে যে আমার অ্যানুয়াল অ্যালোকেশন আছে তার মধ্যে আমি 4টে ভাগ করলাম, 4টে ভাগের মধ্যে একটা ভাগকে নিলাম, সেটা হচ্ছে আমার S15।
ওটা প্যারালালি চলবে,
হ্যাঁ
মানে নতুন সেটটা প্যারালালি ঢুকে যাবে।
হ্যাঁ, আমার তো S11 বেরিয়ে গেছে,
হ্যাঁ, ওটার যে
S11
চারটে
বেরিয়ে
ভাগ
গেছে, তার
করেছিলাম,
বদলে আমার ঢুকলো S15। তাহলে ব্যাপারটা কি হচ্ছে দেখো, ফিফথ কোয়ার্টারের মাথায় এসে আমার S15 থাকছে ফার্স্ট টাইম, মানে একবার,
হ্যাঁ
S12 4বার,
হ্যাঁ
S13 3বার,
3বার,
S14 2বার।
2বার।
ক্লিয়ার? তাহলে ফিফথ কোয়ার্টার কমপ্লিট হয়ে গেল। এবার সিক্সথ কোয়ার্টারে যখন তুমি আসবে, এবার S12 যেহেতু 4বার কমপ্লিট হয়ে গেছে, এটাকে তুমি আউট করে দাও স্যাম্পল থেকে, দিয়ে আমার ফ্রেশ কি আসবে, S16 আসবে। S16 আসবে ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে, আর রিভিজিটে আসবে S13, S14, S15। এইভাবে এটা কন্টিনিউ করবে। This will continue without any modification for the survey schedule till 8th quarter, that is for the 2 years. এই 2 বছর পর্যন্ত যে সার্ভে হবে তাতে আমার শিডিউলটা একই থাকবে, সার্ভে শিডিউলের কোনো চেঞ্জ হবে না। In the 9th quarter, 9th quarter মানে কি, the first quarter of the second year cycle, second 2 year cycles, মানে থার্ড ইয়ার বেসিক্যালি,
3 বছরের।
3 বছরের যেটা। তাহলে ইন দ্য 9th কোয়ার্টার আর নিউ স্যাম্পল। এবার এখানে দেখো, এটাকে আমরা কি বলছি, নাইন্থ কোয়ার্টারে এসে আমার নতুন এন্ট্রি যেটা হচ্ছে S21, ঠিক আছে, আমার S18 পর্যন্ত হয়ে গেছে 8th কোয়ার্টারে ফার্স্ট ভিজিট। তাহলে 9th কোয়ার্টারে ফার্স্ট ভিজিট হবে S21 এর। 2 মানে কি, সেকেন্ড সাইকেলে আসছে ফার্স্ট পার্ট। তাহলে S21 এরা প্রথম এলো ফার্স্ট ভিজিটে, আর রিভিজিটে কি কি আসবে, S16 আসবে, S17 আসবে, S18 আসবে। তাহলে এই যে 1 যেগুলো, এর 1টা হচ্ছে আমার ফার্স্ট সাইকেলের, আর S2টা হচ্ছে আমার সেকেন্ড সাইকেলের ফার্স্ট 1/4। In this way we can continue, and this method is called the rotational panel. Okay, so this kind of rotational panel we can get in the periodic labor force survey only for the urban area, not for the rural area. In the rural area, it is simple. You divide the total allocation of FSU in equal 4 parts and carry out only first visit schedule, not the revisit. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is about the periodic labor force survey and the employment unemployment survey. তাহলে ডেটা রিলেটেড আমার যে পড়ানোর কথা ছিল এই মোটামুটি আমার কোটা কমপ্লিট। আমি নেক্সট ক্লাসে ইকোনোমেট্রিক্স পড়াবো, ঠিক আছে। অফিসিয়াল স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্স নিয়ে আরো ক্লাস হবে তোমাদের। প্রবাবলি MC will take your class on another issue, another source of official statistics. Okay, এগুলো তোমরা পড়ো। PLFS এর যে লিটারেচার গুলো আছে সেগুলো পড়বে ভালো করে, বিশেষ করে যে রোটেশনাল প্যানেলটা একটু বোঝার ব্যাপার আছে, এটা একটু ভালো করে বুঝবে। এই যে S11 S12 যেগুলো আমরা নোটেশনালি দেখালাম, এই নোটেশন গুলো তুমি ওই লিটারেচারেও পাবে, আমি চেঞ্জ করিনি, আই এম কিপিং দ্য সেম নোটেশনস, যাতে করে তোমাদের বুঝতে সুবিধা হয়। ওকে,
স্যার
বলো।
স্যার এমএন মূর্তি আপনি রেফার করতে বলেছিলেন।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
তো এমএন মূর্তিতে তো বেশ অনেকটা এই থিওরি আছে
এটা তো
রিলেটেড টু
পুরো
মাল্টি। হ্যাঁ, তো আমাদের কোন পার্টটা মেইনলি ওখান থেকে দেখতে হবে স্যার? মানে আমরা কি
ওখান থেকে
পিপিএসডব্লিউ
দেখো, ওই সেইভাবে ডেফিনেটলি বলা খুব মুশকিল। ওটা দেখবে যে প্রাথমিক জায়গাগুলো তো দেখবেই, যে কিভাবে যে তোমার ডিফারেন্ট